21st, 2023 Hutchinson City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Garza.
Here.
Conklin.
Here.
Goss. Here. Fast.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, please. We have our prayer with Mr. Dubovich. Please pronounce it.
Dubovich.
Thank you very much.
I respond to anything.
Like I told you, you can hold it against me. I'm fine with that.
Let's pray. God of justice and mercy, we thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence that your creation deserves. And finally, O God, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
All right, this is the portion of the meeting where we entertain oral communications with the audience. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes and to items not on the agenda. If you want to come up to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
My name is Teresa Linthicum. I reside in the outskirts of the city of Hutchinson. I have learning disabilities, but I like to help people, and I want to make sure they live in a safe environment. I became a carpenter. I can no longer do my duty here. I've tried to report. Does the council like to see my certification to see why I can't report?
Why you can't report?
Yes. I am a certified carpenter. I can report on plumbers, carpenters, electrician, gas meters, because they're a plumber too. And I'm having trouble where I live. And documents that aren't on city record of my home improvements.
Okay.
And 2 of them were licensed contractors with the city of Hutch. And I have others. But those are my most important ones. Because they're telling me we have no guidelines. My education says we can have some similar guidelines outskirts in the county.
In the county?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're saying that you don't have inspections or
I have
guidelines?
guidelines as a carpenter
Right.
that must be met,
Correct.
whether I rent or own. When I rent, I have to tell a landlord I'm a carpenter. As a homeowner, I could either work on my home or be responsible. I hired contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And my duty is to tell them I'm a carpenter, certified. They have to meet those guidelines.
This is outside the city limits
Yes, sir, but I have seen this in town too.
where people are working and they're not certified to work?
No, where they've not upgraded the homes, they've half upgraded them. Furnace has been changed. You got a glass fused box. Then you got one that's got furnace changed, and you got the brass fittings that's not marked for safety for other people to know to shut off when they call 911. They're not going to know how to shut off those brass gas fittings. Those are obsolete. I know I'm old school, it's 87, but I've seen a lot of stuff here that shouldn't be.
Right.
Shouldn't be. And when I'm on a job site, if an inspector is out on the job checking the plumbers, he comes up to me, I still have to show my certification to him. And I still have a right to be there if I'm hanging kitchen cabinets. That's my certification as a carpenter.
So what are you,
I'm trying to give my service and my knowledge to the council and to the city because they're restricted once they join a union. I am not. I never joined a union.
okay,
I have a right to stand here and defend and report when I see things.
you
And I
do?
was denied. My
You-
report was not taken correctly. I was taught in school.
So you gave a report to the
I
city?
tried.
Okay. Do you have a copy of your report?
Well, it's handwritten here that I got, but
Okay.
I have all my documents to show you. Can
So
I just show you my certification while maybe you have an understanding a little better
that would be fine. I
Or
think
does
this
it
is
help?
something we should do.
privately?
Yeah, yeah,
All
I
right,
think we
I'd
should try to do
appreciate
this. Can we get your contact information at
Yes,
least,
sir.
so we can follow up with you on it?
Yes, sir. I'd
Okay.
appreciate that.
Okay, we can do that. And we'll get down to a little bit more of what your concerns are.
Okay.
Does
I'd
anyone
just
else
like
have
to be
any
able
questions?
to do my duty as a certified carpenter. That's all I'm asking to do, and I cannot do that right now.
I appreciate that. Well, let's try to communicate outside the public forum and find out what
Okay,
your.
well, that is my guideline.
Okay.
As a certified carpenter, if I cannot report there, I'm to report to the council.
If it's within the city limits, we need to take a look at it.
Well, I understand that. There's some in town, but right now I have issues, if they're doing it to me, they're doing it in town. I paid for these services, and I didn't get what I paid for.
Okay,
They're going to school to learn how to cheat on the material and rob us.
okay.
And taking a 25-question test to be a plumber isn't cool either, man. That's kind
Well,
of hits them wrong, the plumbers.
I
They don't want, especially the certified, to go to school for a long period of time, man. They don't.
Let's try to have a sidebar conversation on this to find out a little bit more on how to narrow this down between city and county on what your concerns are. If
Okay.
that's all right with you.
Yes.
And you can reach out to me on email if you'd like. It's on the
I'm
city.
sorry, I don't.
It's on the city. Well, I have a
Nobody
phone-
showed me
my
how to
phone
work a
number's listed on the
computer
city.
yet, so I don't know
My
how-
phone number's listed on the city website as well.
Well,
Or you
I
can
don't
get
have
it-
a computer at home. The internet
Right.
service doesn't. We got 65-foot towers out there by about 2 of my neighbors because there's no service.
Gotcha.
Mayor,
it's
I
not
will,
worth it.
I'll follow up with her. I have her phone
All right,
number.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. We'll figure that out
All
then.
right. Is it okay to be dismissed?
You could be dismissed. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, and you got my number? I think he does.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mrs. Gamper? Or I guess you can say your name. I guess I don't have to say it.
I'm Jane Gamber. I live at 2519 Pennington Road. But my concern is with an area on Monroe Street between 5th and 2nd. And the concern is timely a little bit. As I understand, there's still time to have this, safe sidewalks that the city's working on. I'm not sure if that's a grant or whatever, but I think it went through March 25th. Anyway, my concern is for the, if you go west on 2nd, past the Hutch News, and then turn north on Monroe, there's a low-income housing there, I think a recovery service there. But anyway, people are living there, children also, because you can see a little playground there. But there's no safe way for them to travel from that facility up to 5th Street, where they're trying to go, say, to the Quick Shop or to Dillon's, maybe get a prescription, whatever. The sidewalk goes just to the, and I'm talking about the east side of Monroe. So 2nd Monroe, east side. Sidewalk goes up almost to the railroad tracks and then does not. Railroad tracks there. Then further north from the railroad tracks, there's a right-of-way where you can see people have walked enough to create a walkway. But then nothing, no sidewalk, anything. And then those people that are moving along there have to walk under the overpass, excuse me, that is for 4th Street. So they're walking under the overpass there on Monroe. And at that point, they're walking really in traffic. There's no way out. They can't, that's it. So they're walking in traffic at the edge, east side of Monroe. up to 5th Street, on the north side of that overpass for, excuse me, for 4th Street, there is sidewalk and it's safe. But that area from the overpass on Monroe, where 4th Street goes over, is not safe. And I wish you would consider putting this into some kind of solution to make that a safe place. I've seen people walking, riding bikes, pushing strollers with kids in the strollers, and they have to go out around the tracks and then, sorry, but at the very least, I would like to see some signage. If a sidewalk isn't practical, some signage. You put paint down for bike lanes. That might be a place to put paint. Some signs about pedestrians, caution, just to make that a safer area for people to travel. That's my concern. I would ask that council members, after you leave here or into your day, travel West 2nd to Monroe, turn north on Monroe, eyeball what the situation is for those people along the east side of Monroe if they have to travel by foot, by bike, pushing a stroller up to 5th Street, Monroe, to access either Dillon's or the pharmacy or the Quick Shop or whatever. That's my concern. So, any questions for me on that? Wish I had some handouts or something. Thought about bringing a half-used gallon of paint and a paintbrush and using a prop, but I didn't. But I'm hoping you'll consider this as something that would cost very little and make a much safer area for people that are already struggling.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
We continue to hear about lack of sidewalks. I'm not sure how we fix that under the bridge. Like she said, maybe a lane or something that we could do.
I drive by there all the time. I think I need to drive by there again and pay attention to that particular
Exactly.
issue. I mean, you go through that route all the time. You just kind of get blinded because you're so used to it. So I'll pay more attention when I'm going through there. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
Morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Greg DeGarmo. I've been a resident of Hutchinson for 47 years now. I'm also an employee of the city of Hutchinson since 2002. But today I'd like to come as a resident with some concerns. I attended your study session 2 weeks ago about the 30th and Lucille traffic light, no traffic light situation. It seemed like the study session focused on meeting traffic warrants, or the lack of, not meeting traffic warrants. I wanted to share some information with you. I have not done any traffic counts. I checked the KDOT website. They haven't done any traffic counts at these particular intersections I'm going to share with you, but these are signalized intersections in the city of Hutchinson that are on very low volume streets, and I think it'll be clear why they're there. We'll start with 23rd and Tyler, which is up in the northwest part of town. It's 400 feet from Wiley Grade School, but 23rd nor Tyler are high volume. I think the traffic signal is there for the safety of either students walking or cars, going to and from the school. Another one is 27th and Adams. 27th is not a very high volume school. That's right next to Morgan Grade School. Also 27th and Main, which is 470 feet from Morgan Grade School, but again, 27th is a pretty low volume street. 10th and Adams, which is about 1,000 feet from Allen Magnet School. There's a signal at 11th and Adams, which is warranted, I'm sure, by the two intersecting streets there, but 10th is, again, a low volume street, but I think it's there to help students back before it became a magnet school. Bigger and Maple, which is on the corner of Lincoln Grade School. Again, two very low volume streets. Avenue A and Maple on the corner of HMS 7. Maple, again, is a low volume street. I don't think any of these would meet the traffic warrants for car counts. 9th and Poplar, 470 feet from Ferris Grade School. 11th and Maple is 400 feet from Ferris Grade School. So there's two routes that we try to provide safety. 7th and Severance, 650 feet from McCandless Grade School. And 11th and Baker, which is 1,170 feet from McCandless Grade School. Ironically, the boundaries have changed for the grade schools, and McCandless boundary only goes up to 11th now, but previously I think it went further north, maybe to 14th. So that signal was there to help provide a safe crossing. 17th and Cleveland is about 50 feet from Graber grade school property. And then Plum, or 14th at Plum is right next to Hutch Community College. 15th and Plum is right next to Hutch Community College near the street that their dorm is on. Again, both those side streets are very low volume. So that's 13 intersections that we currently have in the city that, again, I have not taken any traffic counts. KDOT didn't have any traffic counts for these intersections, but they're very low volume. So sometimes it's not always whether the traffic warrants are met, but whether there's the need for the traffic signal. So there are 13 intersections, which is about 15% of our intersections in the city, are near a school to provide some safety. And I know a couple comments I didn't agree with. My personal opinion, a comment was made that traffic signals don't necessarily make it safe, but I disagree with that, because if you have a stop sign, you rely on the person's experience, knowledge, what their day's going like, on when they're going to go. They're going to make that decision whether to go or not. Traffic lights assign permission to go when it's safe. It controls the environment better. Also, a comment was made that you might need to buy right-of-way out there. Main Street right-of-way is 112 feet wide, and we have 5 lanes of traffic. 30th Street is 100 feet wide. The right-of-way out there is 100 feet wide, but you're only looking at 3 lanes of traffic if you put in, if you include the left turn lane. So that's something also to consider. So I just want to share a little more information with you. I know in 2 weeks you're going to address this issue, so I wanted to come today to share some information with you and just kind of look at some other things that are involved with this. By the way, the 30th and Lucille intersection is about 550 feet from Prairie Hills Middle School. So it is definitely within a distance that's very similar to our public grade schools that we have here in town. So, and I think that's all I have. Thank you.
It's good information. Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to make a comment? All right, if not, we'll move on to the next topic, please.
Item 5, consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 6A, public hearing evaluating the performance of the CDBG grant for rehabilitation of homes in the Creekside featured neighborhood.
Would anyone like to move to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
I second that.
There we go. First and
Sorry.
second. Thank you. Roll, please.
Garza.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Council. Jim Seitnader, Interim Director of Planning and Development. And with me is Julia Westfall from our SCED office here in Hutchinson. So this is a procedural piece to close out our 2018 grant that we used to fix up 11 properties in the Creekside neighborhood, which would be directly west of Main Street and between 6th Street up to 8th Street, I believe. And there is a map of that area. The grant work began in 2018 with the city staff meeting with a number of stakeholders, citizens groups, and actually had a really great survey, 160 responses that we needed to complete what is called a HAT, a housing assessment that the community does to build the case for the need for a CDBG grant. Once that was accomplished, we submitted that. You go through another process where all of the state agencies come together and you present your case, your HAT, and then at that point, you're either invited to send the application or you go back to the drawing board and work on it. So that happened in the summer of 2019. And from that, we moved forward and we acquired the services of SCED to help us write the grant and administer the grant. We asked 2 of the featured neighborhoods in Hutchinson, Southwest Bricktown, and Creekside to participate, and what we needed at that time were called pre-applications. So these were people that were interested in the grant, and from that, it was decided that the Creekside homes fit the profile the best, and the target area was determined. And so we moved forward at that point. At that time, we were hoping 5 owner-occupied and 5 rental properties would be our mix of work. We were awarded the grant in January of 2020, and the hope at that time was we would get this first phase completed really quickly and come right back with another application. Your HAT process is only good for like 4 years, so that was our goal and hope. But later that spring, COVID-19 hit, and so our world as we knew it came to a standstill for a long time. And it took until 2021 for any real work to get started and going. And then progress was being made, but we also ran into things like supply chain issues and things like that, especially with windows. So it was really hard to get materials. So the project just took a whole lot longer than anybody wanted to, and we were lucky that SCED was here to kind of be the guiding entity, because their staff stayed relatively common, where our staff, everyone that was involved in 2018, including myself, were no longer here. And so it truly was just a struggle to get things done, but because Bill Lampy and his SCED staff stayed on course, Karen Weltner and Angela Richard did a great job with the record keeping and things like that. And a new person from SCED who had just started in the fall, Stephanie Marsh, put everything together. So we had our audit in January of this year, and was everything was passed. And so this piece is kind of the final documentation. There'll be some papers for the mayor to sign and things like that, and we can then close out the CDBG grant, and there's just a little bit of money that they withhold, and so we'll get an additional $2,000. During that audit, all quarterly status reports were accurate and submitted on time. The project meets the goal of benefiting low to moderate income households. 11 homes were completed for a final cost of $314,792, which included the grant award of $256,500 and $58,292 of match from the landlords that we worked on those properties. So I've asked Julia to come just in case you might have any technical questions or things. She was one of the constants who was here through the whole process. So
Thank you.
we stand for any questions.
I have one. How many of these 11 homes were owner-occupied versus land investment properties?
Yeah, I think it turned out to be 5 owner-occupied and 6 rental properties.
And does that fit well, Julia, with what you're seeing across this region?
It is. You know, I personally work on the weatherization side, so I see a lot more on that, and the rental pool obviously here. We kind of got into a point where we actively went door to door trying to get anybody in the area to apply for the CDBG program. Luckily, we're at a housing commission, and my landlord was there that had properties that were in that targeted area, and he was basically kind of our saving grace at the end to be able to complete the grant with his rental properties.
I think you're getting to what my concern is. I wonder how we can get people to apply for things like this, like the Safe Sidewalk Program. You know, I think that people, and I don't know how we make it any more clear to, you know, how we make it more public. And, you know, I don't know how we get the word out any better about some of these programs. I feel like we struggle anytime we have a program like this, which is a great program. It's near my home, and I see the results of this program when I drive around in my area. But anyway, if anybody has a suggestion, I would sure like
I have
to
a
hear.
question. Was there anything in the grant that said that it had to be a mixture of the two types? Or would it have been acceptable if it had been 100% owner occupied?
I think they want you to come, you know, with the request that you made, they want you to be as close to that as possible. It really is a good grant because you can also do demolition. There's a lot of other things that you could have applied or asked for in that grant. But my experience is they want you to follow your grant request as much as possible. And I think that's really where the COVID really hurt things, because the pre-application people you kind of assume would all then be ready to go and all that. But because of the big gap in time and all that, there was probably a lot of changes with those folks. And part of the issue too, Greg, I think, is these things take a lot of paperwork, and a lot of people just aren't comfortable with either sharing information or going through the process. And so, I don't know, Julia.
No, it 100% is. With the CDBG projects, where we try to layer our weatherization funds as well, and those are two different applications, and so they get very overwhelmed really quickly when you have a 13-page application for, you know, both different grants and stuff. So we try to help them as much as possible, but you are right, during like COVID and stuff, we had a lot of people that had change in income, so no longer were qualified for the programs, but then also they just didn't want us in their homes. Some of our weatherization projects that would normally take 90 days took us a year and a half to complete, just because the delays of clients not wanting us in their homes. Like, we would start and do a certain part, and then they didn't want us in the home after that because of concerns with COVID. So.
And that's probably our greatest, working with SCED brings the weatherization funds in too. So whatever money we could use from the grant fund helped the project, but the weatherization funds really added another layer of improvements, things like windows or air conditioning or, you know, so it truly is a great partnership, and it takes that house into really good condition and should give it another 15, 20 years of good service.
You keep talking about target areas. How do you pick the target areas?
Well, we asked the two different groups to submit these pre-applications.
So how do you get to the groups? Who do you pick? How do you pick the groups? That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
in this particular case, we went to two of the featured
I
neighborhoods,
see.
Bricktown. Part of it has to do with a driving of the area with the SCED folks, because there's certain homes where our money, their money can make a big, big difference. There's other homes, maybe 2 stories or things like that, where our funds just aren't enough to really move the needle. So that had a lot to do with it too. Plus, there was a lot of rental properties in that area. And
So we're gonna have another skid program or what? Is there another one coming up or not?
well, we will need to go through this process again, starting with a new hat and move forward
Okay.
for another CDBG grant. But yes, I would assume at some point here in the near future that would be one of the directions we'd want to go. We'll run this report through the Housing Commission on Wednesday and then kind of get an idea, because they were kind of the overview of the survey and things like that. So it'll go into our overall strategy. Right now, we're so excited because of the ARPA funds and the housing NOFA that'll be coming out fairly soon, and then the great work that SCED and Interfaith Housing are doing as partnerships. So I might ask Julia just to give you a quick update of that. But these ARPA funds are truly a windfall that we've needed for many, many years. We don't have a dedicated funding source to fix housing. And without that, without knowing year to year, you can have money to do programs and to invest in improving housing. It's just really, really tough to do. So,
And I'd address the ARPA funds at a different point in time, because this is a public hearing for this particular
Gotcha.
item, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Thanks. Yeah.
I have just a comment. The paperwork, and I mean, I know paperwork has to get done, but it is overwhelming, as you said, and for many people. And Mr. Garza's they went on that trip over to Wichita.
Yes.
They had some volunteer kind of nonprofit type operations and maybe some volunteer type people to help people apply and for these funds. There's all these programs we're talking about, if you give me that paperwork, I look at it and I say, that's not worth it. And that is, I understand the need for that, but these programs would really be beneficial if we could try to find some volunteer type, nonprofit type people that would step up and help people that really do need the help and that would benefit from it, and that simply are not going to go through the maze of the stuff. And I think that would really be important as we go forward with all this ARPA and all this. There needs to be some sort of real assistance to help people do this. There probably are some really qualified people out in the community that would be willing to help, I would guess.
This has been identified as an issue at I guess it was somewhat recent neighborhood meeting, and that's something I think we're trying to flesh out how that might look on maybe a biannual basis, because it's not just paperwork, it's communication, it's language barriers, things like that. So it is something we're aware of, and we're still trying to flesh that out, how that would look. But I think it needs to be done at the neighborhood level for each district. And now that we have more neighborhoods, it's something that gives just another thing for the neighborhoods to really get involved in the community with this type of program and other programs similar to that.
With the CDBG, like going door to door, we do have an office here in Hutchinson on 30th Street that, anybody that has trouble or just needs to sit down page by page with the application, they're able to go in there. We've actually sent our people to individuals' houses if they didn't want to leave their home, trying to assist them in filling out that paperwork. Unfortunately, the paperwork is kind of like that necessary evil with federal funds, that you have to fill all of that out just to be able to be qualified for grants. And that would take a change in the federal statutes. So.
Would you say that another burden is that in order to qualify for the grant, the folks applying have to share a lot of personal information? You mentioned income earlier. They also have to disclose who lives in the home and who the income of every person who lives in the home. And I believe that that's an incredible barrier for a lot of people. They don't want that stuff in public record for whatever reason.
And unfortunately, a lot of employers went to an app where they pay, so they're not getting paper stubs like back in my so I probably have 20 years worth of pay stubs. They don't get those. If you ask someone now and you need 90 days, it's a struggle for them to even get that 90 days of pay stubs to be able to get that. But we work with them, we work with employers. We try to find a workaround to be able to make sure that we do everything possible to get them income qualified.
Yeah.
Well, if you two would keep that in front of me as we go through this new assessment for starting over, basically, we attend many of these meetings. We will try. We will be your advocate as well to try to get people involved and help in any way we can. I'm with Stuart. I don't really want to fill out an application, but there's somebody that will, and that will help. I mean, I will help, but Anyway,
Yeah, Mayor, I think you hit the nail on the head through the neighborhoods. That's why we went to the featured neighborhoods. But in the case of the Creekside, they had a couple of real champions who did a lot of that legwork and who went out. It was a church, and they've done really good things in that neighborhood. They also helped get the Safe Sidewalk program in that area. So it does take someone or folks from the neighborhood to kind of help too.
yeah, there's two churches in that neighborhood that are really involved, so that's good. That's a good point.
Any other questions for them?
I have one last remark. I think it speaks volumes to the fact that you guys did really great work that now everybody else is going to say, hey, we want that. So I look forward to the momentum that this has created.
Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who's part of the public that would have something for us to hear? All right. Any more questions for Ms. Westfall or Mr. Seitnader?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call.
Garza?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes. Next item, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 6B, public hearing establishing the Hutchinson Hotel and Conference Center Community Improvement District.
I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I motion to open the public hearing.
I second.
Garza?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. The city entered into a development agreement with Amber Hotel LLC for the development and operation of a hotel, convention center, and restaurant at 1715 North Waldron. They have petitioned for the creation of a community improvement district within that location. Notice that the public hearing today has been published in the Hutchinson News as required. The ordinance before you establishes the CID, the Community Improvement District, at that location to collect an additional 2% sales tax by businesses located at that location. It is not for the entire city as a whole. As part of that, the CID will be authorized to collect $18 million worth of sales tax, or it will remain in effect for 22 years, whichever comes first. Once approved, once the project is completed, we will notify the State Department of Revenue that they should begin collecting sales tax in that district. They will then remit the sales tax to us, and then we will pass the funds on to Amber Hotel LLC. This is not our first CID. If you look in our financial statements, we have a CID fund. We have 5 current CIDs. We have 2 hotels. We have the mall, which is divided into 2, and then we have another location by the mall that has a CID. So this is not a new process for us. It's just an additional CID. At this time, I'll open it up to comments or from the public or from council.
Any council members have questions or comments on this?
No.
Anyone in the audience would like to speak or ask questions on this? I didn't expect it to go like this, Angela. I'm sorry. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Please call.
Garza?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes. All right, now I would entertain another motion as written in your agenda for the ordinance.
I move to approve an ordinance of the City of Hutchinson establishing the Hutchinson Hotel and Conference Center Community Improvement District, authorizing the making of certain project improvements relating thereto, approving the estimated costs of such project improvements, levying a CID sales tax, and providing for the method of distribution of the same, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call?
Garza?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes. Thank you, Angela. Next item, please.
Item 7, consider ordinance authorizing park improvements and city hall HVAC improvements.
Hey, Angela Richard, Director of Finance. The Park Department and Maintenance Department is getting ready to do 3 projects that will be bonded. IRS regulations state that we must pass the resolution or an ordinance authorizing the projects and to reimburse ourselves with bond proceeds. So this is an IRS requirement. The 3 projects are the Hersha Bike Park, the Bunte Park and Grandview Park, which are combined, and then the City Hall HVAC chiller. The authorized budget amounts are provided there: $350,000, $275,000, and $160,000. We are anticipating bonding costs, so we're rounding that up to $815,000. When we go to actually bond this with other projects, we will adjust that bonding size to bond just what we need to cover the bond costs. Right now, I'm waiting for additional larger projects to bond this with. So in the future, you'll see more resolutions or ordinances authorizing projects, and then I'll come to you with an ordinance authorizing the sale of bonds, and then we'll actually sell the bonds. So that will be later this year. We're still working out timing according with projects. So are there any questions? Staff would recommend approving the ordinance as provided.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Well, I know we approved a budget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure we need to spend $350,000 on a bike park.
I don't know if that's something.
Justin, I mean, can you give us a little background on this?
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. I do have a PowerPoint. Hopefully, that'll come up real briefly. It'll show you some pictures and descriptions of what a bike park is. So, I do also have on here the playgrounds that we'll be replacing. So I'll just run through these real quickly. This is Bunty Park, just replacement of the existing playground. And here, same playground, just different view of it. This is Grandview Park. Again, just 2 different views. Playgrounds will go basically in the same footprint of the existing playground. So the history, I guess, of the bike park. One is it's something that came out of our master planning that we did. A couple things that we found is that we are really missing that age group that's really too old to play in a playground. But maybe not quite old enough to go and recreate on their own. Maybe they don't have a driver's license, and so there's that kind of in-between age group. And there's also there was a strong desire at that time to have some sort of element that had a perceived risk or a sense of adventure to it. And so a bike park is something that kind of rose to the top through those conversations. And really, what you're seeing here are several different bike elements. The asphalt pump track would be one of the main features of the bike park. As you can see here, that's what a pump track looks like. We say bike park, but really anything on wheels can use these things. You can see there's actually a couple scooters in this picture. The one little kid with the white helmet, that's a Strider type bike that doesn't even have pedals on it. They're really good for all ages, all different types of wheeled recreation vehicles. Other things that could be part of a bike park are these types of obstacles. They're a little bit less skilled development type things where you roll over these little rollers through this tube, and then you can also do something more like this. So we don't have the bike park designed yet. We do have a contract that's not signed for a design build of some sort of bike park that would have these sort of skill building elements, as well as a pump track that would be useful for really anyone of different type of wheeled board or scooter. So as far as cost goes, I know $350,000 does seem like a lot. So to get to your original question, when I was developing this budget, I wanted to do something that would engage people to be there for a long time, and would engage people to come back and develop different skills. You know, something like this would definitely be a lot cheaper than just $350,000. But the reality is that, you know, people are going to get bored with this after a while. Something like this is something you can grow into. You can get better. It'll engage you from, you know, really little to even adults. We will see a lot of adults using these. So again, it goes back to our master plan as far as identifying that need that wasn't being met, as well as Harsher Park is in a zone that really has very poor access to parks. The park is there, but there's really nothing there. So I don't know if that fully answers your question or not, but I think maybe understanding what's all involved in a bike park maybe helps explain why the cost is.
And the cost to maintain that every year, what do you have budgeted for that?
So we're already maintaining that site. We're already mowing the site. There's a ball field there that we drag now that we'll take out, so the ball field will no longer be there. So the cost is not going to change significantly on an annual basis. We're still going to have to mow it. We will probably every 5 to 8 years have to do a seal coat on the actual pump track, just like we would any other asphalt surface. And then any other elements that we have would likely we would do in a chat or a crushed limestone path like we have at Rice Park. So every couple of years we have to top dress those. So I'm not going to say there's no additional maintenance, but it's not a significant amount.
Okay, I'm confused here just a little bit, and I'm supposed to know all this stuff, but I learn all the time. On the bond, doesn't the bond, does it come out of our budget per se, or is a bond like a loan and then we pay back the bond?
It's like a loan, basically.
That's what I thought. So it doesn't actually come out of our budget. I mean,
the payments do.
That's right.
Annual, and Angela can probably speak way more clearly on this than I can, but the payments of those we've calculated out over the next.
So that
20,
350,000 doesn't come out directly out of our budget, correct? It's just a payment.
I take all of the CIP projects that we anticipate we're going to bond, and I project those payments over the next 20, 15 years, whatever we're going to bond. And I put those in our bond and interest fund. So we're collecting a mill levy to pay the bond and interest fund.
Correct.
But like these projects have already been built into that projection.
Okay. I think I would have an objection if it came completely out of our budget per se. But we're talking about youth. We're trying to give them something else to do. I think we can afford payments to do this. So we're doing something for the youth. I wanted to make sure on that bond that I was correct, how I understand that. Okay.
I think this came up when we were doing our budgets.
Right.
And we were discussing this and how it fits a market for age group, because we were asking the same questions. Because it was right after a certain island got put in on 17th in Washington, so it was kind of, we were thinking about that kind of stuff.
That's for my age group.
That's for your age group. This is for.
I will not be at that bike park.
No, this looks dangerous.
I have a bike you can borrow and try.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
I have a question. This includes the renovations to Herman and Helen Bunty Park as well. Can you show that park again, please? Does any of the work done at that park make any changes to the building structure or the restrooms that are there at all?
Not necessarily to the building or restroom. So I went through these pretty fast. The budget for this, or the cost for this playground's just over $119,000. Cost for the other playground's $127,000. So there's about $29,000 of additional funds that we'll have to do things like additional amenities, whether that's park benches. I'm not sure if we have drinking fountains at these locations. It'll help us with the safety surface. So there will be some other amenities that go in, not necessarily just the playground itself, but there is not funds to address the actual shelter.
Okay, I was just curious. And can you tell us how old the equipment is at Bunty Park currently?
It was put in the either late 90s or early 2000s.
Okay.
I think it's older than that. I think. Maybe not.
I mean, it could,
my
it could
kids
be
going there. You know,
it could
so.
be as maybe in the mid 90s. Most of our playgrounds are in that range. We don't have great records on when each one was put in.
It is well loved, though,
But
for sure.
It is definitely our most popular. neighborhood park. And a little bit about this design that you see on the screen. The main structure is designed for kids ages 5 to 12. And then the smaller structure to the left is for younger kids, age 2 to 5. And gives them a little bit less height, and gets them away from some of the older kids as well. So. And we are replacing the swing set. There's a rocking piece as well as an individual spinner as well. So.
And council, just know I have no problem with maintaining what we have. I think this is a good thing. Update, maintain what we have. I'm just not sure in the climate that Hutchinson is in right now, I'm for adding more things to take care of, especially a fairly big project like a bike park. That's where I'm at.
I understand that. Any other comments or questions or discussion? Well, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll do the motion. Where are we here? Is that 7?
Mm-hmm.
Motion to approve ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds, City of Hutchinson, Kansas, to pay the costs of certain improvements, all pursuant to Charter Ordinance Number 50 of the city, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Fast,
No.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider ARPA childcare recommendations.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. So, as you know, the city was awarded a little over $6 million of ARPA funds. Of that, we allocated, or the city council allocated, $1,773,844.61 to childcare. After we had allocated that, we talked to community stakeholders, and they expressed that we should focus on keeping existing daycares open and innovative ideas for the future. And they also expressed that we should pool our money with the county in order to gain momentum. After that, the KSU Child Care Needs Assessment came out, and it echoed a lot of the same feelings. And the county has already allocated their ARPA money for child care to United Way. So United Way is already set up to take on this challenge. The county and United Way has allocated funds in 2 main areas for current providers, sustainability. They're going to try to give current providers money in the least restrictive manner they can to help maintain them and keep them open. And then also the other pot is for innovative models. So one of the ideas from the KSU study was a co-op. So this would help fund that. It would also help with other creative ideas like neighborhood child cares created off of a co-op model. The director for early childhood systems would also be part of this pot of money, as the KSU study recommended as well. I provided what the county allocated to United Way. So as you can see, most of the money they allocated was for current providers. They wanted to focus on keeping current providers open and going in this environment. When we met with United Way, they would like us to allocate 75 to 80% of our funding to them for innovative models. The contract that's been provided has the 75% allocation after their oversight costs. If you wanted the numbers for the 80%, I have those as well. So after all of this, the city staff recommendation is to enter this agreement with United Way so that they can oversee our child care funds for ARPA. They would keep our pot of money separate in essence so that we can ensure that it is benefiting only those providers in the city of Hutchinson which would align with our ARPA guideline requirements. I'm so honored that Denise Gilliland and Lisa Gleason from United Way are here so they can answer any questions you have about what they're doing. And then I'm also open for any questions you have about the agreement and how that procedure would work.
I have questions. Now, I've got concern, all right? First of all, the need is great, and there's not any question about the need. The plan to implement the ARPA funds, I don't have any problem with that. I think that, the problem I have is what happens after the ARPA funds run out. We're talking about a lot of money here, and the whole reason for this problem is that the people can't afford to pay more for daycare, whatever you want to call it, than what is, and they can't afford to pay more, and the people that are providing it don't make any money, and they can't afford to do it for the little pittance that they're getting. And so this is an economic quagmire that is going to explode. We have a big problem already, which this will help address for right now. But then what? So what's the plan for 3 years from today, 2 years from today? I mean, what I read in here was fundraising, but that's kind of,
The sustainability.
Yeah, the sustainability is very real here. What's going to happen after these funds are gone? I mean,
so sustainability is a huge issue, and something that we all recognize is a problem. The model itself of childcare is broken. As universal pre-K has become more accessible to families through the school system, the ratios that are in place basically take the money-making mechanisms out for childcare providers currently. So your ratios are so low, birth to 3, that you can't make money. Your 3, 4, and 5-year-olds is where you make your dollars. So the innovation and expansion, that's what we're really hoping to focus on, is creating a new model to help lower the cost of care for providers. So right now we know providers have a tremendous amount of cost.
well, I don't mean to, but I'm with you right there. Okay, so that's what I mean, so it's too expensive for the people that need the care to pay for the care. And the people that are providing the care don't make any money providing the care, so they don't want to do it, and they won't expand. So, I'm with you on what all you're saying there, but what about the sustainability? I mean, what are we going to do after the ARPA funds have been spent, which are going to go out the window fairly quickly?
They'll go fast.
Then what? Yeah, then what?
So the work of propping up that co-op is part of this. Co-op, dollars in, dollars out, being able to have providers to buy into insurance, 401ks. Those are things that just are not available in the childcare industry. Also, part of the work that we're doing is we're working with school districts and looking at how state and federal dollars are being spent. There are ways to leverage those dollars differently than our community has chosen to do it. But that's the work of our school districts. That's the work of the partners that are getting those dollars. Our job is to support them and trying to figure out models to do that in a way that's responsible for everybody. So we have ways that we can play with the model to help sustainability. Ultimately, looking down 3, 4, 5 years, we know that this is not only a state problem, but a national problem. So at the state and federal level, we're looking to see what's coming up that can be advocated for. New Mexico just set aside oil and gas dollars to put into childcare. So we're not only looking here locally, we're looking at state and federal too, and what they're planning on doing and how those plans are going to take shape over the next 4 years also.
So the plan currently is, as it's being, as I've read it and so forth, is to spend the ARPA dollars. I mean, basically hire a director and build some building or two or whatever, and this, that, and the other, and that the money then will be spent. So, and then we're hoping for the state and national to come through with money to sustain us, is what I think you just said.
So on a local level, we can also do fundraising. So we know that every dollar that we raise moving forward, the Hutchinson Community Foundation has an account for early child care and education. We can put dollars into that to continue some of those sustainability factors.
Stuart, I was reading earlier this week, and I don't remember where I read it, but I think the legislature is going to take up some of these regulations.
I read that too.
Did you?
Yes.
And maybe they can help. I would encourage folks to reach out to their local legislature. And, you know, there has to be a balance there. And I was talking to somebody earlier today about that. And I don't know what that balance is, but I just know we can't have people with a master's degree and pay them $16 an hour.
Well, and you can't continue to have people make decisions that impact their future because they can't afford childcare.
I
mean,
I agree.
We cannot continue to ask people to make less money so they qualify for childcare assistance, because ultimately at the end of your career, that affects how many dollars that you're able to put into back into the community through your taxes and what you're putting back into our state and federal dollars. And we have so many people in our community in that situation.
I agree completely. I'm not disagreeing with anything that's been said, or my concern is what happens 3 years from today. Everybody, our taxes, you know, and I'm sure everybody in here has heard about the property tax raise, we perceived about to be property tax raise from the just the valuations that were sent out. And a lot of angst about that, and we're all aware. I mean, those of us that were at that economic forum thing here a month ago or whatever it was, and he was on record. I mean, the new head guy at Kuhn Krause or whatever said, I just moved here to take over this. I can't believe how high your property taxes are. I've lived several umpteen places, and the taxes here are significantly more than anywhere else, and that's an issue too. And I'm not saying it's a bigger issue than this. This is a huge issue you're trying to tackle. But it's not necessarily that our city taxes are so high. That's not really it. It's the culmination of the city tax, the county tax, the school district tax, the junior college tax. The Hutch Rec tax, all the taxes piled together are higher and create a lot of angst, as most people are aware. And so this has the look of piling on 3 years from now. I mean, who's going to step up? Now, it's possible that there will be some sort of national plan or site, but at the present there isn't. And if we spend all the money and we don't have a pool of money that is back to keep it going, then we're talking about a tax increase or a service reduction somewhere else, a fairly significant service reduction somewhere else, which is an option. I mean, but there's only so much, you know, we're either, you know, we've got a total amount of money, and if this is gonna end up adding to that cost 3 years from today, it's not a problem today, it's 3 years from today or 5 years from today. Something's got to give. The taxes are either going to go up somewhat significantly to people who are already very angst about it, or we're going to reduce some other services, which I'm not saying that's not a good idea. Maybe it is. But
so one of the things that came out of the market study is just the wages in Reno County in general and how low they are compared to the rest of the state. So there might be some work to be done there with other partners as well. How do we make Reno County more competitive in the wages that we're paying people? Because if parents can't afford to pay and providers can't raise their prices, you know.
I agree. That's a disaster
One thing
right there.
that I would like
Yeah.
to mention is that I don't think that the problem is that the problem's going to happen in 3 years from now. I think that the problem already has happened and the system already has exploded. And that's why we have a couple hundred kids on wait lists in Reno County. And you mentioned we don't want to be paying people with master's degrees to be in childcare. But when you look at taking those people out of their actual jobs, for instance, I personally had to wait a couple weeks to go back to work after I had my kid 7 months ago. And when you take a master's degree, a master's level or higher level person or any educated person out of the workforce so that they're then stuck home with their child providing daycare that they can't get into, that has a huge impact on the community. You're taking that entire earning off of the table for that family and for the city.
Yes, I agree.
Stacy,
So
that's a
it's-
very fair point.
The system has already exploded, and that's what we've seen.
I agree with that.
I think
don't
that these are
disagree.
funds that you're only eligible for if you are committed to spend them, and we have to have a plan to spend them. These are obviously ARPA funds that are unique, and they may only come about once in our lifetime, but we have to have a plan to spend them.
And I don't
And that's all
disagree
they're
with-
presenting is this is how we're going to spend them. We have to have the plan in order to be eligible to even get the funds. That's our bite at the pie.
I don't have a problem with the plan itself. My whole problem is what's going to happen.
The sustainability and the economic models is, I think, a very key part. As they mentioned in the agenda packet, a lot of this, and I think this is unique to some of the presentations that we see when we're divvying out funds, is a lot of it's going to the new and shiny thing, and nothing is going to the people who have already been in the trenches working hard at fixing the issue. And I think this satisfies both and gives money to both the experienced providers, but also those who have new ideas that they want to do and they haven't had a chance to because there's been a lack of funding.
I agree with that. I don't disagree with any of that.
So I think this on balance is a very well thought out plan. I know that there has been a lot of work put into how this benefits not only the short term but also the long term. Building facilities, expanding facilities, creating those situations where maybe we change the ratios, or we can request the ratios to be changed to benefit not only the city but the county, the state, and the whole country, because the system has exploded.
I agree with everything you just said, and I agree with, I'm not talking about the plan itself as I think the plan's fine. I'm not talking about the plan. I'm talking about the sustainability when 3 or 5 years from today. Now, I agree that the thing is broken badly currently, and that we've got a real problem, and it needs to be solved. I'm not disagreeing with that. The plan, though, doesn't address, this plan does not address what's going to happen 3 years from today or 4 years from today. That's where I have a problem, and the plan needs to do that. This is, I mean, something's going to happen.
So I just wanted to come up and give a little more background. Rebecca Starkey-Kiesling, I was on the ARPA task force helping to allocate these funds. A little more background on that. The reason the split is 25 existing and 75 innovation is because we kind of got the sense from council as it existed before as well that we want to really work on sustainable. So the 25% is going to maintaining, but the 75% is going towards finding a more sustainable model. So we don't know what that looks like yet. That's what we're using that money to find. So that is why it is allocated the way it is. The county really wanted to focus on making sure we keep what we have, and we knew that at least we felt the heart of this council was to make sure we're looking to the future, and that is why it is split the way it is. So we're just putting a little towards making sure we keep it, but the 75 really is to look for that sustainability. Some of those funds will likely be used for match dollars for things like CBDG and things like that to pull down federal funds that will make these dollars go even further. So I just wanted to bring that up, that we hear you, and I feel like that's really where we're trying to go with these funds. And I think that we have them in the right hands, and by putting it with United Way and with the team that's been working on this, they have that frontline experience in the child care industry. But that was the big thing I wanted to bring up, was the 75 really is to look at that sustainability and hope that in 3 years, between what we're doing, what's happening on the federal level and the state level, we can find some sort of sustainability and long-term solution. So
The challenge with making a plan, and I see where you're going with this, the challenge with making a plan 3 to 5 years from now is we don't know what kind of regulations. Part of what we're trying to do, and maybe the funds don't necessarily go to that, it's just part of the effort for this issue, is to try to get to state and federal level and make some changes done there. At the local level, things that we can do is, facility improvements. Some people, even just improving capacity for each daycare provider to where we can get more efficient with how many kids they can watch, and open up more positions for parents to get in with what we currently have. But also, it's going to be keeping an eye on what's going on at state and federal level and calling the audibles as we see them on how to adjust. And that's the difficult thing, is having a plan that's constantly adjusting. But I also, to your point, it is shedding a light on how important the sustainability of this process is. And I think everyone's on the same page with that this money is not a forever fund. It is one and done. And how do we use it in the smartest way possible? And then every meeting we're in, this is one and done. Don't count on this being here forever.
I think I want to take this opportunity to also invite you to our Communities in Action workshop, which we're hosting on the 29th of this month at HCC. We're going to have child care aware there to help facilitate some conversations. I know Stacy is planning on being there. I think you would find a lot of value in that, to hear from the entire system everything that is being worked on, not only locally but at the state level. So I would invite you to that. I think you would find some value in it and might be able to take away a little bit more confidence in some of the work being done.
I don't, like I said, I have no problem with the way this is being done or the plan. Itself, none. My whole issue is what's going to happen 3 years from now when we've spent this money, we got all this going. Who's the whole premise for needing this? I agree with completely. People that need it can't afford it, and can't afford to pay more, and the providers don't make any money. That's why there's no expansion. That's why they're leaving and they won't do it. There's no money in it. So that's where the problem is. And I don't see, now it's possible that this innovative stuff, and I'm in favor of that. I'm not, is going to find a solution. But when you go in and spend $6 million or whatever dollars this is that's actually, and don't have a recurring then source, and we set everything up because we've got that money. And then 3 years from today, we don't have any more money coming in. And we've still got people losing money trying to do this. Then it's a bomb that explodes. And the city can't afford to take on that kind of burden unless we get rid of a bunch of other stuff.
But we're not taking on the responsibility of
Somebody's
running the child care centers or anything like that.
No,
we're
no,
simply
I know that.
distributing
No,
their
I'm talking
funds.
about
So
the money.
there's no risk to the city of saying, if we divvy out these funds and we say go build a child care center, the city's not going to turn around in 10 years and say, oh, we need to buy that back and we need to run this program.
I understand that.
So I don't think that there's that risk.
I'm talking about the losing operations that are at the heart of this problem currently.
but we're in a decade of historic low birth rates, and we have hundreds of kids on a wait list to get into childcare in
No, I
Reno
know that.
County.
Yes.
So there's something that's got to give, and if at the end of 3 years from now, we have a couple new daycare providers, let's say we have a new facility somewhere, and perhaps those are shifted to, I don't know, an after-school program, or they're shifted to something else that's still in line with what the, you know, the facility was built for, because obviously they're kind of a, when you build a building, it's kind of a one-trick pony in some circumstances, but I don't think there's any harm in any of that. We can't predict the future, but this is simply saying we're gonna have the funds to try.
Well, I'm.
Ms. Gleason, do you have
Yes.
something you can shed light on this?
I'm not sure about that, but Mayor and council members, Lisa Gleason, Executive Director for United Way, we don't have all the answers right now. You're right. But we have been working on them. We've been working on them before ARPA dollars even became a thing. We have partners at the table from all over this community trying to solve this problem together. And we know that ARPA funds are going to help us be able to experiment and try things that we would never have been able to try before. And I hope that as we look back in 10 years and 15 and 20 years, that we're going to say that these ARPA funds were the catalyst to help us get creative and innovative, and to say that Reno County and Hutchinson itself cares about kids, and that we were able to use these funds in order to create and solve the problem around childcare for our community. So we do not have all the answers right now. We have ideas, and the ARPA funds are going to help us move towards those ideas. But we have 3 years to be able to utilize those funds and try to work on creative solutions.
Thank you. I would say on our end, where we can make the most impact would be in regards to trying to have policies and work together on incentives for businesses, because the more jobs there are available, the more competition there is, wages go up, and that's what we can help do on our end to try to help with the wages to drive people to be able to afford health or daycare. I mean, it's a community approach. It's not just one group or another. But any other questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I got one comment. We know this is a problem, and we know, and I'm all for the opportunities, I'm all for starting it now. This is something that the council and future councils know it's coming up, so we have to work together and get it accomplished. So we know, and what's the good thing about it, if we can make any good thing about it, we know it's going to be something coming up in 3 years. So now we can start looking at that and see what we can do about getting it fixed. We need it. We need childcare. So we just have to get ready for it. Start looking at how we're going to take care of the problem. So one of many problems that we have.
I'm personally glad to see that there are, in this plan, there's layers of redundancy and accountability built in, so that we, as well as other bodies, will be reported to on how these funds are being spent periodically throughout the entire process. Also, another thing is somewhere it was mentioned, and also in your testimony, that there will be health benefits, retirement benefits, that sort of thing for the workers. I think that's incredibly important, because if your child care provider doesn't have paid sick leave or the opportunity to take sick leave, that means when they're out, you're probably out too, just due to staffing. So I think that that's incredibly important. You also have people who would be delaying healthcare, making healthcare decisions based on the number of days off they have or the lack of days off that they have. So I was excited to see that that was built in. I would hope that in the next months or year that we see a change on the state and federal level, tax rebates to employers, that sort of thing, to incentivize those businesses to invest in community childcare as well.
Is there anything else from the council?
I move to approve the agreement with United Way of Reno County for coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Item 8B, consider agreement with the Kansas State Fair for construction of stormwater control measures.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, you have before you a proposed contract between the city and the fair for a water control measure. This is of great benefit to the city. There are very few open areas within the city limits where stormwater control measures can be built. We have talked about this for several years with the fair, and you can understand they're being good stewards of their area because they're landlocked. And so giving up a portion of that is a serious matter for them, and so it's taken some time. The area that we're talking about, if you know where 23rd and Severance is, that's the roundabout. Right next to it is the water treatment center, and right to the west of that is the area that we're talking about for the stormwater control measure. There's some ball diamonds in there, and some of it's been used kind of a storage area for materials. That's the area that we're talking about. We already leased that area from the fair. Our leased area goes through there to the south to the tennis court complex, and also includes the fairgrounds splash park. So all of that has been leased to the city starting in 1994. There's a 75-year lease on that area, and has a possible 25-year extension in that same lease. So as far as commitments, we can be good till 2094, in case you're worried about that. All right, the agreement itself will allow us to build the stormwater control measures, detention ponds. Conklin Cars has one right next to their facility. You've seen them at the mall where it dips down because everybody that builds new construction has to have a stormwater plan approved by the city. And it will be similar to that, except it'll be a lot larger. And it has to be a sufficient size to qualify for the 50% credit, which is what we're proposing. It will be built of sufficient size to qualify for that credit. So that's why it's included in the contract, and again, it's a great benefit to the city. Stormwater control, our plan is a 50-year plan, so it does take some time, and there are a number of parts for that. But this is a great benefit to the city and will benefit us as we try to move forward with that stormwater plan. So that's what the contract is for. Their credit will begin as soon as you approve it. The State Fair Board has already approved it. So as soon as the council approves this, it will be in effect. Any questions from the council?
It appears not. I would entertain a motion on this.
I motion to approve the Kansas State Fair City of Hutchinson agreement for the construction of a stormwater control measure and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9, report of city officials.
Mr. Garza, would you start us off, please?
I'll be glad to. Okay, our youth council, I want to see everybody there tonight. Pack this whole place at 6 o'clock right here. Our youth council will meet and pick up little problems that they have at 6 o'clock right here. I'd like to, you guys support the youth council, come on up, and they're great young people. Also, this Saturday, I'll have another meeting at the Zone down here on B Street for the public to come talk to me. Be easy on me, but come talk to me. And so we can go over some stuff. At 9 o'clock this Saturday at the Zone. That's down here on B Street. I think it's 802. I hope I got that right. I shouldn't even say it if I don't know. But it's down here on B Street on the, what's the name of that school?
Winans.
The Winan School District. And go around to the back and come to there, and we'll have seats set up and have a good discussion. Other than that, that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fast.
I appreciate all the good conversation. I appreciate your young mind, Stacy, and I'm sorry you're having to go through all of this. I have grandkids that are having the same issues. I think that, Stuart, we could have had the same conversation about the bike park. I'm not against the bike park at all. I want to be able to pay for it 3 to 5 years from now to maintain it. And I know that there's several trails in the city that need some maintenance, and that's not on Justin. And, you know, I will be at the youth city council tonight, so they can beat me up if they would like. But I appreciate the conversation. And Kendall, I don't know if we could do some strategic planning as far as, you know, how we move forward as a city. I know we approve budgets and we say we're going to build a, you know, whatever. And I think we need to narrow what our focus needs to be like right now. I mean, I don't know when it was said that we need a bike park, for example. Maybe it was 5-6 years ago before we'd ever heard of pickleball. And I'm sorry, that seems to be a bad word lately, pickleball, but I think that's an up and coming sport. I mean, there's professional athletes that are forming teams for pickleball. I think it might be the next best thing. You know, we talk about turfing some of our baseball, softball fields as an economic driver to our city. I mean, some of these things I think we need to discuss as a council, maybe during, you know, when we talk about budgets. But I have really appreciated the conversation today, and I think that by having some of these harder conversations, we can move forward in the direction that we should move. That's all I've got.
That's good points. Mr. Conklin?
Well, I've pretty much expressed my thoughts, I think, completely. I am absolutely aware and of the child care quagmire problem, huge problem, and it is current, and it is and that it needs to be fixed. So I'm not absolutely. I don't think that the plan that was presented. I have no problem with any of that. My whole issue is we got people worried and very concerned about their taxes, and we can't keep raising our spending and hold our taxes. And so, you know, when you raise your spending, you are in one area, which this is a very large area. I don't even disagree that this may be the most important area. It's huge, and I think solving it is huge. I don't disagree with any of that. There's going to be a big cost with this that is going to appear, and it's possible that the state or the federal government or somebody's going to sprinkle us with programs to handle it somehow or make it more palatable to absorb. But we aren't, and I agree that we're trying new innovative things to spend money to do that. I agree with all. I don't disagree with any of that. And really, we need to carefully, as you're talking about the bike park, or we need to carefully look at every big expenditure and be very careful with how we're distributing money. We are not in a position where we are able to go out and raise taxes, and so any place we spend extra money is going to come out of something else, is what's going to happen. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't do that, but we can't add to the pile. And I think we all have already, I'm sure you've heard that. I certainly hear that. And I agree with it. I understand that. So we need to be very deliberate with our spending and And we disagreed. Don't think we didn't. We just agreed to take on more 3 years from today.
You mean with the bike park or the ARPA funds?
Both.
Okay, but you voted for the bike park.
I did.
Okay.
I voted for this ARPA fund, childcare. I did.
I'm just giving you that.
Yes, there's gonna be some significant takeaways somewhere when that occurs. I mean, unless we get these manna from heaven, it's all right. That's all I have, sir.
Ms. Goss?
Thank you. I'd like to say congratulations to the 2023 Kansas Youth of the Year runner-up, Zion. He is bound for great things, and I enjoyed watching his presentation. The Boys and Girls Club of Hutchinson is an outstanding program and facility. We are lucky to have them here in Hutch and have them working so hard for us. The Young Professionals of Reno County is holding their annual meeting Friday at 5:30. Mayor Richardson will speak. The topic of the evening will be in regards to how young professionals can contribute to the city, as well as the mayor's vision for moving the city forward. On the child care issue, I'd like to say that there's value in getting people back to work regardless of their education level. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not just about getting master's level people back to work, but any person back to work. Reliable child care is the steadiest thing that can allow a family to thrive. I appreciate the work being done and yet to do in regards to the child care issue in the city. And I'd just like it noted that we aren't primed for growth with hundreds of kids on a wait list for child care. That's it.
All right, thank you. I'd like to say something really short about what happened last Tuesday with the police chief was let go. I've had a number of phone calls. I've had some people reach out to me saying that the Freedom of Information Act, that doesn't apply here, that's a federal issue, or the Kansas Open Records Act. There are exceptions in the Kansas Open Records Act in regards to privacy. We want to be transparent. We also have a responsibility to protect the privacy of those who are employed or have been employed by the city. It's an unfortunate situation. I would ask that people in our community that are on one side of it, that it is not something to be relished when someone's employment is ended. And on the other side of things, I would mention that, don't feed into conspiracy theories, that nothing big has to happen for someone to be let go. There are multiple reasons. It doesn't have to be one big item. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I just ask that you respect that all of us were involved in the decision in one way or another. There are reasons for things happening, and it's not an easy decision to make, and it's not something we look forward to, but it's something that we decided on. With that, I will hand it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Kendall Francis, City Manager. Mr. Garza, the address to the zone is 805 East Avenue B. So you were close. You'd have probably got there if you went to 802. You'd have figured it out. So really only a couple things. Citywide cleanup. We've announced that it is coming up April 29th and 30th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. The city will be placing dumpsters throughout several locations throughout the city that residents can use free of charge. There's lots of information online or some printouts. Will tell you where the dumpsters will be located. There's a map to that. It'll also tell you what is not allowed in dumpsters, as Linda clearly made reference to me, as I couldn't read it, and I was trying to put something in a dumpster wouldn't have belonged. But anyway, that is coming up. That'll be a great service for our citizens, a little spring cleanup. The only other thing that I would mention, if you have an opportunity, get out and enjoy the NJCAA tournament. I happened to be there last night, ran into a friend from high school, but it's good to see a lot of people from out of town. That's an economic driver for us, obviously, but it's been well received. So I'd stand for questions.
Doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you, sir. All right, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Study session.